Hey all, this is Porty 1119 with Head Frame Hunter. A friend of mine suggested doing a video on this Young Buggy, as sort of a not quite task training, but a introductory for a new Young Buggy operator. And well, here we are. So there's your Deutz F4L 912W 4-cylinder inline diesel engine. And there's your operator's seat. So like a lot of underground equipment, you sit sideways in this machine. I'll show you why. Probably do a lot of this video from the operator's seat. So here I am looking down, facing forward. Now I turn just 90 degrees that way, trimming forward. Turn my head and shoulders 90 degrees this way, trimming backwards. Makes it real easy to turn around and run forward, reverse, etc., which you're not always going to have good spots to turn around underground. So being able to reverse for long periods is often pretty necessary. Now getting into a little bit more, your steering wheel, that's self-explanatory. Your parking brake lever. So in this position, the parking brake is engaged. In this position, it's disengaged. Thing takes a lot of force. And down here is your transmission controls. Not sure how well that's showing up, but currently the machine is in third gear. Normally we'll run this one in third gear for work around the yard. Underground it'll be second or third depending on what it's doing. First gear is so slow that it's not really practical outside of exceptionally steep grades. So to shift, you just have a combination of lever positions. Like this is third, that's fourth, that's second, and then that's first. Here's your instruments. There's I believe it's a bushing or an O-ring in the steering column that went bad. I have the part here. I'm just not a super skilled hydraulic mechanic, so we've got a guy out here who's real good at that. Gonna have him help me do it. But, yeah, sorry about that. Here is your battery voltmeter. Here's your oil pressure. Here's your horn button. Here's your key switch. Here's your Hobbs meter, your hour meter. Here's your headlight switch. It's a preheat indicator. And your start switch. So like on the 911, this is the glow plug position or preheat, and that's the start position. You release it and the machine will run. Now move it over to here. This is what's called a Myco lever lock. It's a service brake lock, and Doc, I appreciate you giving me a little bit more information on that, on how to successfully and correctly apply that. So to apply the lever lock, I just lowered it. To apply the lever lock, you will first apply the service brake, raise the lever lock. You see how the brake pedal kind of goes slack there. That is because the service brake is locked. It's engaged. The machine will not move unless you throw it off a cliff. It's a backup to the parking brake, and it works quite well. The parking brake is a drum on the output shaft of the transmission, by the way. Now, on the left, we've got the forward pedal, and on the right, we've got the reverse pedal. So those are hooked to a 3-position valve on the torque converter slash, I guess you could call it a hydrostatic motor if you really wanted to. It's again a lot like a 911. Now the problem with this is that it can be really tempting to step on the opposite pedal to stop and do a rapid direction change at the same time, but that's extremely harmful to the torque converter. You stand a pretty good chance of blowing it up by doing that. What I tend to do is bring the machine to a complete halt and then center the pedals. That's a trick that Gail showed me, actually. That's her way of doing it. Her little little technique, and I like that quite a bit. It is a lot more gentle on the machine, less likely to blow anything up. But the controls, the directional controls on this buggy are unusual, to say the very least. Now we're looking towards the back. That's the dump lever. You push it forward to raise the bed and pull it towards you to lower the bed. And there's that little grab handle that's good for putting the parking brake on. Sometimes I just rest my hand there. And there's your kill cable. It's spring loaded. You pull that, it'll interrupt the fuel supply to the injection pump and kill the engine. Now you gotta let it coast down. That's the part I screw up the most running this truck. It's the tailgate lock. In that position, the tailgate is locked, and if it's swung out towards the outboard side of the truck, it will unlock the tailgate and allow the tailgate to open when the bed is being dumped. So you need to unlock that before you dump the bed, and you need to lock it before the truck is loaded. So coming down here, you've got our oil bath air cleaner right there. It's a pretty standard oil bath air cleaner. I think a lot of these are standard parts for Deutz. I bet I could probably pull that off and replace the one on the IMCO with it, and vice versa. And there's the starter, catalytic converter, alternator. This machine does have a catalytic converter in addition to the water scrubber, which is a bit interesting. There's your right side dump cylinder, your tires. Looking at your final drive, it's a Napco planetary final drive. I just flushed and refilled both of the final drives a couple months ago. The fluid in them was pretty badly contaminated. There's the locking tab for the tailgate lock. And getting under the machine, we're looking at our disc service brakes and the diffuser bar for the water scrubber, as well as the rear differential. The diffuser bar, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a piece of steel pipe with holes drilled in it, and the water-treated exhaust from the scrubber will diffuse out of that. And your left side dump cylinder, let's see what we're looking at here. And the fill, which is the top, and the drain ports for the water exhaust scrubber. You want to check that periodically throughout a shift. Ensure that it's running as close to full as is practical. That'll give you the best DPM reduction, cleanest air, and it'll be the most pleasant to run when that scrubber is full. It cuts about 30% of the DPM out of the machine's emissions. That's the textbook value, and I see no reason to really doubt that. This is a pretty large scrubber system. And we're coming over to the fuel pump side of the engine. That filter on the top left is the fuel filter. On the bottom left, that is the oil filter that I'm pointing to right now. The rod right there is the throttle. It runs to the governor, which is on the injection pump. Now what we're going to do right now is open up the blower duct. That right side toggle is it's a bit stiff sometimes. And inside this blower duct, the first thing you see is the oil cooler, then you see the fins on the cylinder jugs. So again, there's no conventional radiator, even though you could call that an oil radiator if you wanted. It wouldn't really be wrong. You see the injector, high pressure fuel lines running through that, and then to the back there are the transmission and hydraulic oil coolers, which are pretty essential. The transmission in particular, this machine's hydraulic system shouldn't get that warm. There's 3 cylinders, and the duty cycle on most of them is pretty limited. It's the governor, there's the oil fill cap, dipstick, and that UFO looking thing on the bottom right is the fuel lift pump. The hex screw that I'm pointing to right now, if that is removed, well, it'll spray fuel out at you, but then you pop that cap off, there's a strainer in there, and if you're getting strange RPM or power loss on one of these air-cooled Deutz engines, that's the first place you want to look. You want to open that up, see if you have paint chips, sand, dirt, rust, anything of that nature stuck in that strainer bowl, because that will cause a fuel system restriction. It'll starve the engine of fuel, which is bad for any number of reasons. Picking up where we left off, and here is the reverser, torque converter. It's a Funk Reversomatic. Neat little piece of 70s tech right there. And see, there is the control valve apparatus, and that right there comes from pedals. See that that rocker arm down there, and the yellow duct tape on that little limit switch is a backup alarm adjustment. So that limit switch is the backup alarm on this machine, or the backup alarm initiator switch. Well, it didn't activate in reverse unless you stomped on the pedal almost all the way. I didn't like that. I don't think MSHA would like that. So what that duct tape wrap does, it engages just a bit sooner. So the backup alarm is actually, useful. And right there, under the seat, that is the filter for the Reversomatic. Dropping down in here, don't you just gotta love the maintenance access on this thing? And I'm not kidding about that either. This thing is outstandingly easy to work on. You can see the transmission here. So this is it's also a Funk. It's a 33,000 HMD, or hydrostatic motor drive transmission. This thing does sort of have a hydrostatic transmission, and I tend to like those quite a bit. Now, there is the one of the ports for the transmission. And I drained, flushed, and refilled this transmission some time ago. There was a milkshake looking stuff in it. Here's your front axle, your nose gear. You can see that it is angled in slightly. So the way that the tires sit cockeyed like that is a design feature. It shrinks the contact patch and makes the machine easier to turn and turn faster. Here's your steering cylinder. Yes, the steering cylinder is leaking. We've got that on the punch list. Got the seal kit sitting in the shop. Just need to find the time to do it. Here's your hydraulic system filter. So the hydraulic system on this machine is really simple. All it is the steering cylinder and the two bed lift cylinders. There's not a whole lot to it. Now, in practice, it's a 5-ton machine. It's a bit tippy. See the narrow front wheel track, what that does, it turns like a forklift while being mechanically very straightforward. But the machine can be a bit tippy. So my technique to mitigate that is to go straight up and straight down if I'm going on any kind of incline, to not allow the machine to be pitched in more than one axis significantly at any given point in time. Keep it stable, keep me happy, keep me safe, and that ROPS is a big part of that. So the tag is March 19th of 2007 by a Mr. Keith with Young's machine. So this is a factory retrofitted ROPS. I think the machine went into Young's for a bit of a refresh in 2007 and ran pretty hard for a bit in the uranium mines. Then sat idle for a bit. I was in the market for a haul truck and, well, found this one, realized it belonged to a friend of a friend. I went up to Utah, checkbook in hand, and well, now she's here and we're waiting on getting her a rental contract at a gold mine not too far from here. that turned into a little bit more than just a operator's tutorial. But I hope you all enjoyed that. Found it kind of informative listening to me ramble about this thing for 15 minutes or so. Now, one last thing. This is a centrifugal air cleaner. There's a bowl in there that accumulates the sediment. It's a sediment trap. Then that then feeds into the oil bath air cleaner. An air bath oil cleaner, while interesting, wouldn't make any actual sense, but I do say that a lot out of error. Well, I think that about covers it for the basic controls, functions, instrumentation, etc. on this Model 965 Young Buggy. So, once again, this has been 481119 from Head Frame Hunters. Thank you all very much for watching, guys. Adios.